The Cleveland Browns shocked the NFL world, including myself. I made a poll earlier, I believe 2 days ago, on who they thought would win the Thursday night football game. 87% of that poll had the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought for sure, I'm pretty sure I said in my video, I'm pretty sure I said that I near guaranteed a victory for the Steelers. And the Browns came out and they were better than them the entire game. They found a way, and maybe I didn't look past enough that it was a huge trap game for the Steelers. It was, but I think that in a condition, not to take anything away from what the Browns did in this game, because they dominated. They dominated pretty much the entire time. There was a couple drives and a couple moments towards the end where it looked like they were going to choke away that game, but they dominated pretty much the entire game. Like, they took it to the Steelers. You got to give it up for the crowd. Those are some of the best fans in the NFL. That's why Cleveland is begging for a winner. They're begging for a winning team. They're 2-8 and they have that much of a crowd. Can you imagine if they were actually good? I mean, you saw a glimpse of it last year when Joe Flacco was doing all that. It was just, the hype was unbelievable, and that just goes to show how passionate that fan base is. And they got a great crowd out there. They had a lot of support. When you're watching the television, just you're hearing this rattling from the crowd, people banging on the side of the stadium, the snow. It was a really interesting, fun game to watch for the NFL. First snow game of the year so far. It was a really kind of cool environment. But the Steelers are held to pretty much no touchdowns the majority of the game. Then they get two rattled off in that fourth quarter. Justin Fields gave them a big spark, and I think they probably should have kept Justin Fields in the game. I know Russell Wilson did have that touchdown pass on a great throw, but I think they probably, the way that the momentum was going and the dual threat ability, probably should have kept Justin Fields in, but that's not the reason they lost this game. They lost this game because the Browns just took it to them. They played a more sound game overall offensively. Steelers ran into some issues, and Myles Garrett played an incredible game. I mean, how about Myles Garrett in that game? You have all this coming in where it looks like clearly TJ Watt is the better defensive player, just the way the year's been. I think he hadn't recorded a stat, Myles Garrett, in the previous two games, and it looked like he was kind of dipping. Then he goes out and he just has a huge performance like that, and that's nothing to take away from TJ Watt. He's still an incredible player. But Myles Garrett, you got to give him credit, because today he showed that, hey, you know what? No, I'm in the conversation for the best defensive player in the league. And he made that case today. He really made that case today. But Cleveland, I think that a lot of the common thing that you would want if you're the Browns is keep losing, get the first pick. But this one feels good if you're a Browns fan. It feels good to get that victory against the Steelers. And a huge shocker. You're taking down, you're playing the spoiler at this point. That's what I was trying to think about. Like, what do the Browns have to play for? Well, I mean, you have a chance to beat your division rival who's having a great year at home. They beat them, I think, at home 4 of the last 5 times. They're starting to kind of dominate the series home-wise, so they're going to get another crack at them again. But I just think that if the Steelers want to get serious about making noise in the playoffs, which I think you have a roster to do so, I think if you're the Steelers, you got to improve on offense if you're them. This is just, it's too shaky. And I'll give them a pass in this game. That snowing condition, that's tough. I think if the snowing condition isn't like that, we potentially see a different game. So you kind of have to throw this one out the window. But, I mean, you look at it and, like, they didn't score a touchdown in that game against the Ravens. They didn't score a touchdown in that game. So questions begin to arise. They have a big game against Cincinnati next week. That's kind of going to be a big game. If they lose that game, because you know the Bengals are going to put up points. They're going to score points. That's what they do. Are the Steelers going to be able to execute against that pretty poor Bengals defense. That's going to be big. But as for how good has Thursday night been this year? Gosh, you get another classic game. And that was a classic of Jameis Winston running around, making plays. It was a crazy game. And it pains me that I picked the Steelers to win this one. But I just figured that with the way the Browns have been playing, I thought they had kind of an identity crisis. I thought Myles Garrett had been playing too well going into these games. And I thought Jameis Winston had kind of regressed since the performance there against the Ravens. But they found a way. They put it together, and I got to give hats off to them. They played a really good game. Nick Chubb finally kind of looked like he was moving his way back into contention of being a better player. They were really making things happen, and that's what they're playing for this year. They're playing to play the spoiler, be the team that spoils these opponents. That's what they're trying to do this year. And hey, you know what? I'm all for it. Might as well watch it. They're probably out of the first pick conversation after this, but let's be honest. This Browns roster was too good to get the first pick anyway. And it's not like they weren't going to take Shedeur Sanders. That would have been a mess. He's most likely, well, we'll have plenty of time to diagnose where he's going. I actually have him going to a wild team. But they weren't going to be, the best they were going to do was trade that pick. They're still going to get a top 10 pick. But let's be honest with ourselves. Their roster, we knew it from the start. They had too good of a talent to get the first pick this year. So let's throw that out the window. Let's stop thinking that was what they were going to do. And now it kind of opens the door for some of the other teams that are looking for that first pick. Like the Giants are right there. I think the Jags are right in position for it. So we'll see what shakes up with the first pick. But overall, it was a really, really cool game to watch in Cleveland. That snow just got crazy. Like if you watch, and I will say, I got to give some props as well to Chris Boswell. The fact that he was able to make a kick in that environment, gosh, that guy, he missed the 58-yard field goal to start the game. But the fact that he was able to hit that kick with all that snow going down against the wind, I don't care if it was 30 yards. I mean, gosh, it's incredible to be able to kick that. Even if you look at the extra point, they like bobbled the snap and he was still able to make that and put it in. So that was pretty good kicking overall. And it was a really fun Thursday night football game. We'll see next week. Obviously, you have 3 games. You have the Thanksgiving slate. So that should be interesting, but got to get my picks going in the right direction because the Steelers, I thought they'd find a way to win. It didn't factor for the snow, so it cut me a little bit of a break on the snow factor. But, yeah, that was interesting. I'll be back for Sunday reviews.